Hello and welcome to Water Within Astrology. I'm Carly and we are here to talk about the Capricorn new moon that's occurring on December 30th, Monday at 5:27 Eastern Standard Time. So make sure and adjust according to wherever your time zone is. And we're talking about how this is a cardinal earth sign and this new moon is occurring at 9 degrees of the earth sign Capricorn. Capricorn is a winter month sign, and it is the first day of Capricorn season is the winter solstice, also known as the longest night of the year. And you may know about all the different things that are coming out around how the Christian Christmas was actually always associated with the solstice and how they were mostly interchangeable. As far as when the Christians came in to replace the pagan holidays the way that they did, this was also known as the solstice and also known as Yule, or Yule. And this original holiday was not just a one-day event. This was a week-long event called Saturnalia, and so the key word there being Saturn, which is the ruling planet of Capricorn. And so Saturn is a really interesting archetype because Saturn, also known as Kronos, the Lord of Time or Lord of Karma, was always has been always painted as this harsh teacher that is not here to coddle you. It's here to push you to be your best person, but it's totally in a not compassionate way. That's it's like the mean coach you had in high school that had no sympathy and didn't give you any extra breaks. And pushed you to your limit in practices, but at the end of the day, you guys won the championship, and you guys, were better for it as far as your skills were improved in a way, the way that pressure creates diamonds in that same sort of way. So not all bad. And so Saturn is also known as the flip side of Jupiter, which we just so happen to have a Saturn and Jupiter square happening at the time, or right around the time of this new moon. Actually, it happened on December the 24th, Christmas Eve. And so we have Saturn being this opposite of good fortune, because Jupiter is known as a benefic in astrology. It's one of the planets that gives good things and has a lot of protection energy around it, and it's protecting us from things that are gonna cause us bad fortune or misfortune. And then Saturn is, of course, the opposite, which is that misfortune, and it is that more harsh lesson that we're having to learn in a way that is quite devoid of emotional sympathy, most cases. So this could be a really sobering moment for us because earth signs are all associated with practicality. They're all associated with our work. Capricorn specifically is associated with our 10th house, and more so it's the top of the chart. So it's this top of the mountain. I've talked about in my other Capricorn videos how this Capricorn is also the mountain goat who's climbing the mountain, hence the earth sign, the rock. And it can also be, because it's climbing to the top of the chart, that top part of the chart is the house that rules our work and our reputation and our public display of the work we're doing. So this could be a really beautiful time for us to see embodiment true embodiment of what we're here to do, what our work here is right now in this lifetime. So this could be it specifically to do with your career, or it could just be to do with how people perceive you in your life as well, pertaining to your reputation. And when the sun and the moon are together, we have a new moon, and that is, of course, the beginning of the moon cycle. So what we do at a new moon is plant seeds. And so what kind of seeds are we planting around our reputation and our work and our responsibilities? Seeds of integrity and of dignity, because Capricorn is really this distinguished, it can be this distinguished, very much what do I present to the world? Not to say that it's about wearing masks, but when we see Capricorn coming before Aquarius, they're both ruled by Saturn, but the difference is Aquarius is also ruled by Uranus, which calls us to take off the masks that we might have been wearing in Capricorn. Because Capricorn can sometimes be about what sort of persona have we needed to curate in order to protect ourselves, because Capricorn, being a winter sign, the way I mentioned it is very prone to lack and prone to fear and prone to feeling unsafe and needing to take extra precautions to feel safe. So that can sometimes include curating a personality in order to fit in order to sustain, in order to not let the emotional parts of us get in the way of where we need to go and how we need to survive. So it can be really hard, because the opposite of Capricorn is Cancer, and Cancer is all about the emotional safety. Capricorn is all about the physical safety, but both about safety, and both are very important aspects equally. So, but the thing with the Capricorn is that it can sometimes completely reject, completely sever, and be very distant from the emotional body and what's happening. What's funny is that Capricorn and all earth signs are dealing with the physical body, they're dealing with the physical reality, the 3D, and we can access our emotions through our body. So that can be where the balance is where you can strike a balance between the Capricorn and Cancer archetype, is this way of getting into the body and using that as a way of accessing the emotions, and kind of marrying the two together. For instance, I'm going to be doing an amazing somatic healing practice tomorrow with one of my teachers, and I think this is just a perfect example of what we could be doing in order to honor the new moon in Capricorn, because we're getting into the body. We're getting into the body in order to successfully release any stuck emotions, any emotions that we may have had to put on hold because of our Capricornian pursuits, our responsibilities, our jobs, our, like I said, means of survival. Excuse me. I have so much to say about Capricorn because of the extensive research and learning that I have done over this year, working with the transition of Pluto out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And all I have to say is that Capricorn is normally this stereotypical archetype of the CEO or the CEO that doesn't care about the little people, who is going to just put more money in their bank account to please themselves, or to like just be greedy altogether and sit on your throne of money, which is not an impossibility for sure for Capricorns, but it's definitely not the whole truth to it, because Capricorn is not just the goat, it's also the sea goat. And ideally, the archetype of Capricorn works with the depths of the ocean and the depths of humanity and the collective consciousness, and also then can come back up to the surface and then go to the top of the mountain again, only to come back down again and bring the knowledge that they learned climbing to the top back down again. And it's this up and down and up and down. And it's that fluidity because of the fishtail that is a really tough time for Capricorn as well, because Capricorn rules the bones and it rules the joints. And so we can sometimes start to get really like rigid, and like because we're emotionally disconnected, we can just become like robotic, and we can become stone-faced, right? I definitely like feel like that is a Capricornian thing. Pardon me. And I just feel like so this festival of Saturnalia was a week long, and the whole point of it was to reverse roles in society, especially between slave and slave owner, actually was the thing. And it was really probably not as nice as it sounds, where, you know, like, oh, we're gonna give you a break being a slave for the day. It was like this valve release of anger for the slaves, so that they could feel a little bit special for one day, and so they wouldn't revolt, and so they wouldn't try to escape or make themselves free. So it's really kind of just this guise, right? This like let's like we're gonna pretend like you have rights. We're gonna give you one free day in order to satiate you. And it feels like that can be something that we're experiencing as a collective here in our government too, where our rights are being dangled in front of us, and it's really triggering us and putting us into a fight or flight survival mode, and it's putting us into a panic, right? Because Capricorn, being the goat, is associated with the goat god Pan, who has this tendency and reputation for being very pardon me for saying, but rapey energy, very just like Dionysus energy, and it's associated with also, of course, the devil card in tarot. And so this feeling of panic that's associated with the god Pan can be that feeling of, okay, we're gonna dangle your rights over you and pretend like, here, you want them, come get them, like, and there's this illusion of power over, and what that does is puts us in a place where our root chakra becomes unstable, and we are in a survival mode, and we're letting fear take over our lives, and we're letting lack take over our lives, and we're becoming really melancholy, and we're becoming really just unwell and in a state of dis-ease. And so Saturn can sometimes be those physical ailments that are coming up because we haven't dealt with making ourselves safe, or we are outsourcing our power in the way that we outsource to our governments, and we outsource to the hospitals, and we outsource to all kinds of things in culture that are like the beauty standards and all this other stuff, like societal pressures that we have to be a certain way in order to be loved and to be safe. And that can be really dangerous, and it can be really sad. So what it really means when because Pluto has now moved out of Capricorn and it's in Aquarius, we're having now to rebel against any of those states that put us in that survival mode and put us in a place of inauthenticity. And we're taking back our power, and the power is being redistributed to the people, and we're not outsourcing anymore. What Aquarius and Capricorn do have in common is that they are ruled by Saturn, and that is in ancient astrology the most distant planet. Obviously, we've discovered more distant planets since that was established, but Saturn was the most distant planet for a long time for astrologers because we hadn't discovered other planets that were farther than that. And so the distance, I think here, especially because we are right at the end of the North Node in Aries, we're being asked, and I think I've said it multiple times in my other videos, to really figure out how to be alone, but not just to be alone, but to be alone without being lonely, to be alone without outsourcing our happiness and outsourcing our power to another higher up structure or anything that we deem to be better or more powerful than us in any way. And so the difference between loneliness and solitude is going to be a big thing, and it's going to be maybe some situations that come up that are asking us, how can we be alone? Are we able to be alone? Are we able to sit with the uncomfortable feelings too that do come up, that do need to move and get unstuck? Because Capricorn does get to the point where they're so rigid and so stressed, and they use their work to avoid, and they become burnt out because they overwork themselves to avoid the emotional stuff. And that brings me to the quote that I thought was the most profound for this new moon is, to fill the void, you must feel the void. Because a lot of us can even still get in a point of numbness around those stuck emotions, and we don't even really know that we're avoiding so much because Saturn, the ruling planet of this new moon, is in Pisces, and it's at the middle degrees. It's not it's nice and cozy in there in Pisces, and it's right there with Neptune in Pisces, and Neptune is kind of this bypassy. It can be this really bypassy and really like, I'm gonna wear my rose-colored glasses and keep them on because that's nicer and that's more dreamy and that's more in my fantasy world. And it can also be, because Saturn's in Pisces, that when it comes to the discipline and when it comes to the responsibilities, when it comes to the practical things that Capricorn new moons would normally typically be about, we're maybe still having some issues implementing that, especially with Mars in retrograde. We're still having some issues implementing that discipline that we need to reach our goal. And we're also having Mars retrograde, which means that our action, our ability to get up out of bed and like hop to it and like get to our things that we need to do for the day is in a point of retrograde, and it's going to be having a really interesting time in this retrograde. Right now it's in Leo, but it's going to be in Cancer coming up soon, and it's going to be there until April, which is a really long time for Mars to be in a sign. And Mars doesn't like it all at all, Cancer. So right now we're like until April, we might just really be having some hard times trying to get it all together. What Saturn is really good at is distancing and sacrificing things for the good of the long-term goals. So maybe until April, with Mars doing what it's doing and being in the place that it's in, is gonna be a time for us to just remove things from our life and continue to remove whatever is in the way of us stepping forward towards our goals. And not only that, we're going to have a lot of changes in 2025. We're going to have every single planet in a new sign. And Pluto moving into Aquarius was the first planet to kick off that huge shift. And because Pluto moved, and that's the most distant planet from Earth, and it moves the slowest, it has the longest orbit, because of that movement and because of these other outer planets making their moves as well, it is going to be an extremely amazing new chapter, new year. So with this new moon, it's not just a new year, it's the new moon almost on the new year. And so with this huge change, it's not your average new year. It's really looking at not just the next year to come, but the next 20 years to come, with Pluto making the move that it made. And maybe that can be overwhelming for people. Maybe that's too much, but that's where we're at. And we're having every other outer planet move as well to new signs. And not only, like I just said, Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, they're both going to be moving into Aries. They're both going to be completely starting over in the zodiac wheel. And we have the North Node in Aries right now until January 11th. That is the North Node of the moon. That shifts backwards and will be shifting from Aries to Pisces, which is going to be a really beautiful, I think, time for humanity. The nodes shift every year and a half, 2.5 years, something like that. And the shift from Aries to Pisces is going to really, I think, bring a lot of peace around a lot of the chaos and wars that we have seen. That is actually really stereotypically on point for Aries North Node years. We have seen more war, more carnage, more anger, more impulsivity around, I think people just don't want to think about it too deep for some things, and that's been the way that everybody's kind of using this immature like excuse to bypass, because it's just like, I don't want to think about it. I'm just going to do whatever makes me happy, which is fine, because that's a great way to figure out what makes you happy, right? So it's not all a wash, but with Pisces, we're going to be thinking about how interconnected we all are, and we're going to be thinking about what we've learned over the course of our struggles, over the course of our journey through the zodiac, because Pisces is the last sign. We're taking this look over our shoulder, and we're looking back with compassion to soothe the pain of what we've been through. We're looking back with wisdom, and we're actually understanding. It's like that point where I'd imagine if you're dying and you're in this kind of maybe like liminal state between life and death, there must be, in my mind, it makes sense that we would have this moment of understanding what it all meant, why we had to go through it all, what it all was really about, what really mattered in the end. And this moment of clarity where like your life flashes before your eyes and you just get it, like, or you just like it just all is seen so clearly because you have this different perspective of it where you're detached a little bit more from the earthly realm and you're in the spiritual realm. But, like we said with Pisces can also be this rose-colored glasses, and it can be this illusions and fantasies, and it can be substances, and it can be, so I think we're going to see a lot more research coming out about psychedelics, and I think we're going to keep on seeing weed becoming more and more legal. It's actually becoming medically legal here where I live in Kentucky, which is incredible to think about because Kentucky is mostly rural, and we live in like the one city that's there's like a few big cities, but where I live in the city is kind of like the one progressive area that we have in Kentucky. And it's just really, really amazing to see that these shifts are happening on a grand scale, and it's affecting the entire collective consciousness, and there's no more separation, because Aries is about separation and Pisces is about togetherness and oneness. And yeah, so like even these places where we have been separate from the progressive movements that are happening in the world, they are now reaching to these points, these more like Midwestern cities that are more dense in their energies, and they're more stuck in their old ways, and they're stubborn, and they are, all the things that they are. And so a little bit more on the lack mentality thing that I talked about, because Capricorn is associated with lack mentality sometimes because it's a winter month, and in the winter we don't have as much food. There's nothing growing. Capricorn is associated with the evergreen tree though, and so there is like this symbol with the evergreen as something that never dies, something that is still beautiful and green even in the winter when everything's dead. So we could tap into that as opposed to letting the scarcity and the lack take over. And we can especially be feeling this lack mentality because we live in a society, if you celebrate Christmas, there was a lot of money spent in the last month, where Sagittarius season, we were leading up to Christmas and we were like, who cares? Let's do it. Everybody party. We'll just spend that extra dollar to make the party extra awesome. Because Sagittarius can be extra, and it can be this like kind of party animal that's like, let's do it all, let's do it up big. And we love that about Sagittarius, but then we switch to Capricorn, and Capricorn is checking the bills, and it's like, you spent how much? And how are you going to pay rent this year or this month after Christmas, after all you spent at Christmas? And we can be going back to work after the holidays. Most of us hopefully are off for the new year. But after the new moon, we're going back to work. And that's kind of just like, man, this sobering moment. Like, after the parties are all over, after the holidays are all over, you're looking back and you're like, man, that was really fun, but now it's time to pay the piper, like, around the consequences and the decisions that were made. I teach yoga, and I have seen people showing up for yoga more than they ever have. We had 2 back-to-back packed classes, day after Christmas and the day after that, and it's just like crazy how many people are showing up, and they're wanting to get into their body out of the chaos of the holidays, for sure. Love that, everything. But it's definitely this Saturnian thing where it's like, okay, now it's time to get back to business. Now it's time to like really implement this discipline so I can better embody what I'm here to do, how I'm here to do my work as who I am as a human in this lifetime. And so that's really what it's all about. Capricorn wants us to be a better embodiment of the work that we're here to do as whoever we are in this lifetime. I know that the work that I'm here to do, it requires a lot of sacrifice, it requires a lot of discipline, and so I am really grateful to have Saturn in that way, where I do see the long-term goals, and I do see the benefits of the harsh moments in favor of the long-term goals. So we just have to remember that, like, even if things are we're going through where we're having to release or having to sacrifice or having to not get what we want, even feel rejected or whatever it might be, all of that in the long term is going to pay off and actually be something that later down the line we'll be grateful for, and we'll look back and be like, yeah, I'm glad we had that harsh coach. And they made me better, it sucked. All those practices sucked. All those bleachers sucked. But now I'm someone who really is good at my craft and is actually very skilled now because of what I went through. And so what I also want to mention is that Capricorn is actually a feminine sign, because each sign has an association with a gender in ancient astrology. Not so much gender, but more so like what type of energy we're working with. If we're working with more yin or yang energy, yin being passive and yang being active. And so we're seeing Capricorn as this yin energy, even though it has this reputation of being the workaholic and getting burnt out because of working so much and being so devoted to work. The true essence of Capricorn is this yin, feminine, passive, resting energy. And as of course we just discussed, the solstice is the darkest night, the longest night. And that is the peak point in nature where we see rest. Nature is at its most still, and even though nature is never still 100%, we are seeing less activity, in these points of darkness and in these points of cold and barren and this, long night. But the secondary element for Capricorn, being the feminine earth sign that it is water, which might have something to do with its opposition to Cancer influencing that. But Capricorn has this water aspect to it, especially with its fishtail and with its hopefully wisdom to discover that the best way to climb to the top of the mountain is to be fluid in the way it moves back and forth, and to be more flexible instead of rigid, and to be in touch with your emotions and to use those as a motivator instead of to let them run your life or to avoid them, which would then also be running your life, because when you avoid your emotions, you get all messed up, and then ultimately it still runs you. But so the tarot that's associated with Capricorn is the Devil card. Like I said, the god Pan is associated with the devil because of the horns and with being a goat man. And this goat man, who is bottom half of him is a goat, can, like I said, be very like beastly, and it can be a little bit more in its animalistic tendencies, and it can be a little bit more devilish, you could say. But at the same time, the biggest lesson that I learned about Capricorn this year with Pluto's shift is that Capricorn is the scapegoat archetype. And it can be this thing that society points at and says, you're bad, you're evil, just like the devil. But it's actually kind of just like this scapegoat where everybody kind of just says it's on you so that it avoids any blame on themselves. And Capricorn asks us to go deeper than that and to not play that scapegoat game. And that's where the term scapegoat comes from, is Capricorn. And it can ask us to just go deeper and to look at ourselves and to go to the depths of our soul and understand that anything that we point our finger at, chances are that's going to be something that we are dealing with on the inside. I have this mirror here next to me in my sessions, and I, for some reason, felt the need to flip it onto the other end and flip it around. And I felt that that was symbolic for what we're going through with these retrogrades, with Mars retrograde, and we're having Jupiter retrograde as well. We need to go inward in this time of rest, in this time of darkness, in this time where the veil is thin. And we need to flip it around and turn it around and have a new perspective. Even if it looks like it's the same reflection in the mirror, flip it and turn it and see if you can see it from a different perspective, and see if that can help to give you a revelation about yourself and about what roles you're playing in a subconscious way. What roles are we playing in order to wear a mask for society? And what roles are we playing to hide from our own scapegoat things, our own devilish qualities that we have deemed as bad or as inappropriate or as, societally unwelcome? And how can we be in integrity, and how can we regain dignity but also still stay authentic to ourselves? Because that Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years that we just had, kicking off this whole big shift that we're getting ready to move into, that we're already moving into, is all about taking back our power, taking off any masks, and becoming this authentic version of ourselves, rebelling by becoming more authentic versions of ourselves. Because that is truly a rebellion. That's the greatest rebellion, is to stop playing the roles that you're expected to play that don't serve you, that don't make you happy, that don't feel like your soul's purpose here, that don't feel like is there. It's you get the point. We're dropping all of that, and it's just the beginning. So give yourself time, because Pluto works slow, but Pluto is powerful. So you can't ignore the rumblings. If you're already feeling these rumblings of the change that's coming, just know that it's coming. And the world and our timelines are all going to look very different come April next year. So if we can just hold on, really. What I think we really are doing too, because Saturn and the Mars North Node and Aries switching and Saturn are both associated with distancing and cutting and sacrificing. So in order to heal, sometimes we have to cut cords. We have to cut emotional cords with people. Sometimes we have to associate or completely take ourselves out of where we used to be, put ourselves in better new environments if we really want to change. That can be really hard, because if we have friends that are like people we used to drink with, or people that we used to do whatever with, and we're trying to stop drinking, that's gonna be hard to keep going with them, and you're gonna find out who your real friends are when you get more in alignment with your soul purpose, but that doesn't seem to work with all your old things that you used to do. Sometimes it is gonna be time to distance yourself, and time to discipline yourself around who you spend time with, and having boundaries, because Saturn is all about boundaries. That's a whole video. Let's talk about that. But it's gonna be time for us to say no to some things right now, and we can feel that no as a full body no, and not just a maybe. And same with yes. We can feel a full body yes, because Mars in Leo is very much like, we're gonna do that. Like, yes, we love that. That is what we want to do. That's what makes us happy and makes us feel confident and makes us feel on top of the world. It makes us feel like we're king of the jungle. Makes us feel royal. And we're gonna be able to tell the difference between a full body yes and a full body no, and we're gonna be able to feel that in our bodies. And yeah, the emotional cutting of cords, doing a cord cutting is something that you can do in a lot of different ways. I am going to use my purple and green candles here to represent what I'm wanting to disconnect from. One of the candles is me, and one of the candles is going to be what I'm disconnecting from. And I just have a little string around these two, and I'm going to burn them, and the string's going to burn, and I'm going to meditate on that thing being removed from my life. And of course, nothing is that easy with magic. It's all about your intention, and if you don't mean it, it's not going to work, because it's all about your emotion. It's all about your intention. It's just kind of like a representation of what you are wanting to energetically bring into the physical. But that ultimately lies with you in your action. And like we said, Mars in retrograde and in Cancer is going to just be dealing with emotions right now. And it could be very dramatic with the time that's in either of those signs. So we just need to keep our wits about us, and we need to have compassion because Mars and anger in general is only like a secondary emotion, because anger is used to cover up sadness, and sadness is, deeper than that. It requires vulnerability, and it requires honesty, and anger is simply just like this emotion that we've created in order to protect ourselves from looking sad and being sad. But ultimately, that's what that comes from. And so another last final thought before I do the runes and the cards for us. This new moon could be about we're maybe having some doubts in this dark time when a lot of emotions are coming up, and a lot of old ties that have been left undone are coming up to the surface, and we're having to deal with these things that we've been avoiding. It's just a really hard time of year, emotionally, physically, etc. We could be losing sight of our ability to believe in the New Earth vision that a lot of us are participating in creating and visualizing. So let's not let the Capricorn melancholy and skepticism and pessimism get in the way of us holding the vision for New Earth, because Pluto in Aquarius is truly signifying a new Earth age of Aquarius. And we are creating it every single day. And by holding a high vibration, even in the midst of these hard times, is proving our tenacity, and it's proving our resilience. It's showing that we can do the hard work, and we can hold out for the long run, and we can withstand the tests, and we can be disciplined, and we can do what we need to do in order to get to where we need to go, because we believe in our goal, and we believe in, and it's just really important that we continue to hold that vision in the long term. That's ultimately, I think, the biggest last note that I wanted to talk about. One more thing. We have Chiron going direct one day before this new moon, and we have that is a really good thing as far as the healing that's taking place, because Chiron being there with the North Node, because they're in the same sign as Aries, this has been a Chiron year. And with it going direct right before this new moon, we might be finally getting some really big revelations and understandings about the healings that have been taking place for us this year. And I hope that is something that we can do when we take a look back over our shoulder and see how far we've come, and really look down from the top of the mountain and see, wow, I healed a lot this year, and I healed a lot, and it wasn't easy, and it made me angry, but it helped me understand who I truly am, and helped me understand not only the good things about myself, but the wounded parts of myself, and understand our wounds more, in order to heal them more effectively, ultimately. So I think that's a really good thing that happened right before the new moon. Okay, so that is that. Let us pull a rune. I got a new book on divination, and so I have a new source for the definitions of these runes, and I want to compare them to what I have. Oh, okay. So that is the rune. You can see that. Oh, okay. So we got Pertho, which means cup. Pertho is connected to mysteries and the unknown. It is said that if the rune is drawn alone or at the beginning of a reading, the oracle is showing that the answer is not meant to be known just yet. If pulled... Accessing the unknown is part of divination, so this rune also asks you to heed your intuition and trust your gut. So that's what the book says, and now I'm going to see what I have here. See how that compares. Really, all it has to say is that it's connected to the mysteries and the unknown. And it's cup. Where are you? There you are. Yeah. So here I have it saying that it means elder tree, feminine, dance, and sex. So, boom, right there, crazy. The elder tree, right? Capricorn is this old man. Saturn is the lord of time and karma, and very often depicted as this old man. The elder tree, the Capricorn earth sign. And tree, obviously is this thing that lives for a long time. It's not just like something that dies every year. It lives a long time, and it can, the older they are, the better they are. So there's this time aspect there. It's a feminine earth sign, and it said feminine, and so the dance and sex is obviously about like these. We've really demonized dancing, and we've really demonized sex, obviously. And those are both things that like are part of the human nature that we might have just like exiled ourselves from in order to pretend like we don't need them, or pretend like we're too cool for them, or pretend like everybody who does sex like this is bad, and everybody who dances like this is bad, but certain sex and certain dance is fine. And, sex itself is this thing that has been super demonized in certain cultures. Like, certain cultures, none of it is allowed. Like, it's really crazy. But we won't get into all that, because, as we know, that is the theme of Capricorn, is scapegoating. And to demonize dancing and to demonize sex, which are two things that bring pleasure to humans when they're practiced in a way that's acceptable, right? Like, or whatever, and they're practiced in a way that's we're not exploiting those things, because those things are sacred, and I think the exploitation of them is pretty scary and sad in this day and age. So anyways, these are things that we've decided they're not always good. In some cases, never good. So I've had a lot of animal messages today, and I felt we were going to use the animal deck because of that reason. I had a mouse in my house. I have a stray cat that lives on my porch. I saw a chipmunk. I saw 8 deer. I saw 3 owls. And I think that's it. Hanging out with my dogs all day this morning. Lots of animals today. Okay, Capricorn new moon, animal deck, drawing. What do we need from this deck for this new moon? Which card is the best for us? Now, in this message for the video, okay. Interesting. I got the seagull, which is associated with water, creation, emotions. The gull, a creature of sea and sky, symbolically links the lower and earthly world with the upper world of spirit. It is also a symbol of unrestrained emotion. That's the card we need for Capricorn, is to find out how to unstick our emotions. In a Northwest Native American legend, an angry gull kills a raven, one of the most powerful totems, that had invaded the gull's beach. A great war between ravens and gulls for dominion of the beach ensues, and in the end, the gull is subdued and the 2 birds share power over the shore. They share power. Okay. In the painting, the gull appears along with a nautilus and an image of Amphitrite. The ancient Greek sea goddess who governs the emotions. The gull, nautilus, and the goddess are all associated with water and the primordial element of creation and life. And so that's the card. These cards are so beautiful. It's funny because the raven is right next to it on the top of the deck. So maybe this could be, the raven is the Capricorn, where it's this darker, pessimistic, let's get work done, let's, ravens are really closely associated with the human world. You saw people have pet ravens a lot. And, nobody has ever had a pet seagull to my knowledge. Definitely, probably somebody out there. But, this is going to be the opposition with Cancer, which is the full moon that we're going to have in 2 weeks. And that's this battle, right, to balance the emotions with the physical safety and this discipline and sacrifice in order to also still be in touch with your emotions and still feel safe in the body. Because it's really, you're not going to get anything done effectively, and nothing that you do in your work is going to be authentic or real if your emotional body is out of whack, and if you can't figure out how to self-regulate and how to be okay emotionally, be okay with being alone, be okay with figuring out how to source your own power instead of outsourcing all the time. So this is a lesson for all of us. I'm not saying it as in you, I'm saying this as in me and everyone else too. It's really great. I love doing these videos because it helps me to integrate them into my own life more effectively as well. So thank you all for this opportunity for you guys to be my mirror and for me to mirror something as well, perhaps to you. And I just can't thank everyone enough for the new subscribes and the new comments, and I would love to keep hearing from you. If you made it this far in the video, I know this one's a little bit of a longer one, shocker, Saturn in Capricorn. If you made it this far in the video, please go ahead and comment the mountain emoji, because we are climbing our mountain and we are, on our way, and we are staying strong through the trials and tribulations that it takes to get up there. If we, have lost our footing, we're getting back up and we're continuing on our way to the goal, whatever that goal is for you. And hopefully that goal is something that brings you authentic happiness, and it is something that feels truly aligned with your soul and truly aligned with your life's purpose at this time. So, go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't done that. Please send this video to anyone if it resonated for you, or if you think it would resonate with anyone else that you know. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the full moon in Cancer.